Blog Talk Radio.
Show. This is my fault completely. We were going to have the little Retro Brothers, but I told them the wrong time. I got the times mixed up because they're in America. So I said, oh yeah, it's 4 your time. It's now 3 their time. So that's my mistake. So they're going to come on in a little bit, so I'll add them on when they're ready. I'm talking to them on Facebook now, so that's why. So it's no problem.
Crisis avoided.
So yeah, no problem. They'll be on at some point because tonight is all about WrestleMania. No, it's all about Atari. It's all about Atari. I am a real American.
Oh, man. I need to see this.
Good times. So, well, yeah, basically, we had Retromania on Friday night, which was, because it was our 30th live stream for Retro Unlim. We had a Retromania live stream because it's 30th WrestleMania this week. It's not the 30th WrestleMania, it's WrestleMania 30 because the 30th WrestleMania is actually WrestleMania 31. Because it would to be the 30th WrestleMania would have had to start WrestleMania 0.
Right.
Because this is the 29th occurrence, which is WrestleMania 30. Does that make sense? Because you're born at 0, and then on your first anniversary, so you've been alive for 1 year, then you turn 1. Does that make sense?
Fuck it, we'll go with it.
Cool, right. Anyway, as I was saying, so we had this massive thing, and JL76 Gaming tonight released a video with 2 Battle Royales and a special mystery main event at the end of it, with all the cast of Retromania. Now, I'm not going to give anything away, but I will cut this promo. I'm the best there is, the best there was, and the best there ever will be.
Oh, snap.
Bret Hart. So,
man alive.
Anywho, so I'm really psyched. I think I'm going to stay up, but by the 12 o'clock, my the energy drink would have faded out of me anyway. So, so tonight we're going to be talking, Tom. Of course, sorry, I haven't even introduced my brilliant co-host, Brahili and Tom. How's it going from the East Coast?
Yeah, it's going pretty sweet. It's going pretty damn sweet. How about yourself? How's it going over there in the West?
West Coast. California, no. Bristol. Brizzle. Brizzle. Yeah.
Is that more gangster than California?
Well, they do actually call it Brizzle. So, all right. You know, I can deal with it. I can hit the Brizzle to the shizzle.
Yeah, for shizzle.
The retro shizzle in the Brizzle.
Yeah, man.
So yeah, but do check out JL76 because you've got stars on there like Lawn Boys Post 1975. I am on it. JL76, Gashead, Monkey Spaz is on there. There's a cameo from someone else we all love. There's Console Snob, Harry Yak, Mr. Retro Unlim, JL76 Gaming. Loads of there's 12 of us taking part in the Retro Unlim Battle Royals, and then there's the main event as well. It's an hour of fun. It's fantastic.
That is amazing.
Yeah. Novabug, of course. Novabug, who I missed out. I always miss Novabug out, but he's got.
Aww.
He got shouted out by Steve Benway this week for being a good channel.
Yowza.
I expect. He did
Dizzying heights.
Yeah, he was. That was on his 200 subscribers, so I expect he's now on to his 300 subscriber video.
Awesome.
Well,
Keep on trucking.
It shot up to 237 from 200 in a day, so...
Wowza.
You know, I'm sure he's doing well.
Yeah, keep reaching for that rainbow, Nova Bug.
One day you'll get there.
Uh-huh.
Oh, I love that. So,
yes.
Whatever.
It's like... yes.
Anyway, so yeah, tonight is about Atari, the life and times of Atari, how it started out making the very first video game to modern day, really. It still makes a huge impact on the gaming world, which quite a few people probably aren't aware of just what they do nowadays. So, but
do they make dental tools or something?
They do some crazy shit now. Anyway.
Right on.
So, how have you been? And what have you been playing? And what have you been buying? And all that shizzle this week, Tom?
I've been pretty good / stupid. Quick plug. I was on BBC Radio Cambridgeshire last night.
All right, my son. Yes. For those of you who don't know, Tom is an aspiring, well, not aspiring, but aspiring professional musician. In a heavy metal tribute band is probably the best way to describe it, I would imagine.
Do what? Nah, not at all.
Go on, tell about your band.
Psychedelic 60s rock, I guess. But yeah, we managed to get a little slot on BBC Radio Cambridgeshire, doing some plugs for a new album, and we got to play some songs. It was very cool. But other than that, I've been spending far too much money on old computers.
And that's like you play bass, yeah?
I actually play keyboards, but I did play some bass last night because there was only 3 out of 5 of us.
Oh, nice.
Because
I thought you did like 80s metal covers. Hair metal.
Oh no! I do play in another band.
Okay.
Screaming Venom. But yeah, but it was really fun. But on a more game-related note, I have been spending far too much money.
What'd you get? Come
computers.
On. Tell us.
I'm going to try to do some videos about them because I think it's going to be pretty interesting. But I have managed to acquire a Macintosh FDHD from 1989.
Oh.
And an Amstrad CPC 464 with a color monitor and a shit ton of games.
Novabug will bum you for that because that's what he loves. He loves the CPC.
Oh, dude, yeah. Hook me up with that guy because I need to pick his brains. Definitely. But I've got a few other things in the pipeline. I'll tell you what, Chris, actually, if you know anybody who's like big into like vintage computing stuff, hook me up. Because
what are you looking for?
Mostly Macintosh software, actually.
I know a guy who's local to me, Mike, has loads of stuff in. He just had a Dragon 32 in, which I just got beat to.
Ooh, do you know what? I saw one of those the other day for 20 quid. Actually,
yeah.
I'll tell you what I was going to send you. There was a dude on eBay. It was all untested, which made me suspicious, but it was like 40 quid with £10 postage. It was the biggest Commodore 64 collection I've ever seen in my life.
Nice.
It was just like I think it was like 2 Commodore 64s, just boxes and boxes of software, like 3 tape decks for it, a shit ton of other add-ons. Like, it was crazy. Oh man, I was tempted, but I'd already spent too much money on the Amstrad and the Macintosh at that point, so let's call it a day.
Cool. Well, I've just hooked you up with Chris online, the
right on.
CPC guy, and I'll do the same in a moment with Mike, who's like my local reseller, but he's a nice reseller, you know. There's 2 or 3 of them I know around there, which are
saints.
Yeah, just nice guys who do it to make a little bit of extra cash. They don't make mountains of it, but
yeah.
Speaking of making mountains of cash, picked up Shadow Heart's Covenant on the PS2.
Ooh, yes.
For £1.
Wow.
At the car boot. Already traded it in with my good buddy, Sweet Gamer Raz.
Nice.
I took it to a shop, a retro shop. I knew they were going to rip me off, and they said, well, look, we'll give you 20 trade value or 15 cash. So I said to Raz, look, how about we do it for 20 quid retro, 20 quid of trade, like 20 quid's worth of trade. And he said, yeah, that's cool. So I picked up off of him which I'm going to get at Blackpool. On the PSP, Ghostbusters.
Nice.
Crash Mind Over Mutant. Then on the PS3, the Assassin's Creed 3 Steelbook.
Ooh.
And Dungeon Siege 3.
Okay.
Which I thought was quite good, actually.
Sure. Yeah, nice.
Ghostbusters being the more expensive.
Yeah.
It's like £10 for that PSP game. So
you don't really sit in the wild too often.
No, and that's what happens with these PS2 games. You know, they do. Occasionally, I'll come across one, and I actually rang up Laura, and I said she used to play the Shadow Hearts games, and
so good.
Hearts, and I got her to check it out, and I checked it on my phone, and it was like 20-30 quid selling for, and I was like, that can't be right. So I got her to check it. Yeah, it was right. So yeah, sometimes it does smile on you. And
those games are wacky as fuck. I love them.
Like Eastern Bloc kind of Final Fantasy.
Yeah. Yeah,
maybe. Could, like, transform into more than 20 creatures and all kinds of shit. So really weird. Super
wacky. Yeah, what a fine, man. £1.
£1, yeah. I got a bunch of things this week. Really good.
Have you got a soundboard from RoboCop? I'd buy that for $1. Can we load that up?
Yes, I will load that up for next week. So
thanks, buddy.
So yeah, that was pretty good. And I got a couple of other bits, but really this week I've been playing Final Fantasy X still.
Ooh, how you getting on with that?
Yeah, I love it.
Yeah?
Absolutely love it. And as well as that.
Alright.
As well as that, Pokemon Y.
Pokemon Y?
Because I gotta. So yeah, that's definitely really coming on. I love Pokemon Y. Probably a little bit too much, actually. It's definitely like, it's just one of those games where you can't describe why you like it so much.
It's a total time sink, though.
Yeah, absolutely. But at the same time, a good time sink.
Yeah, man. Yeah.
Because it's just an easy way to like unwind, and you can keep on doing the same battles. So it's never gonna like win anything like any major story awards or anything. But it's still a great game to go into every week.
Oh, for sure, man. I don't want to talk about Pokemon too much on the podcast because I don't want people to know how much I may or may not like it. Maybe I'll do a video someday of some of the things I got, but yeah, moving on.
So yeah, £1.
I'd buy that for $1.
Ayo! Nicely done, buddy.
There you go. So, yeah, it's on there now. It's on there. So we
like it.
We've got that on our soundboard. Banked in the soundboard. And I always put, if you ever have to do these for whatever, they're always RRP at the start on the soundboard. So
I'd buy that for $1.
I know Monkey Spaz will love that. I know he will.
Yes, that's awesome. That reminds me, actually, we've got a Fazbooks now.
Got what?
Got a Facebook page.
We have, of course.
Of course
we have, which is facebook.com/Retro Renaissance Podcast. All of our stuff gets put up there. So, for instance, we put up about tonight. All the past stuff goes on there. Tom does loads on there. Loads. Much more than me.
Yeah, you lazy fuck.
To be fair, my Facebook page is standard Chris Ashank, the Two Fat Bastards, Retro Unlim Network, and the Retro Renaissance Podcast. So,
that reminds me, actually, dude. Plug for T-shirts. Can we buy one?
Can we? What, a Retro Renaissance T-shirt?
No, a Two Fat Bastards T-shirt.
Oh yeah, two fat bastards. So, for those of you, which is probably all of you,
Embargo. You're not supposed to tell them about the Retro Renaissance T-shirts yet.
Ah, well, we'll see. Who like Two Fat Bastards? I'm holding an S up now, a small, which is, good God, how was I ever an S? Which has Two Fat Bastards on the front. And even my wife's laughing. She's coughing to death after laughing. Two Fat Bastards in the front on baseball print kind of style, and then on the back, mouths with arseholes attached.
Like human
in the Well, no, it's a joke about my stepson actually, because he just eats us out of house and home, and he's an arsehole attached to that mouth. There's an arsehole. He hasn't got what? he hasn't got a job, so.
I really want one of these T-shirts, man.
I will get you one. Do not worry. And you know what? We've already sold a bunch of them. So
that is
as
awesome.
Me and Carl having one. I took 2 more orders today off of viewers. Sweet Gamer Raz has bought one. Malk Smooth MJ's bought one. And we're going to be plugging the shit out of Two Fat Bastards this Friday out of those shirts. So hopefully we'll get some more. The idea is, at the minute we've been doing it at cost, which is £15, so they are only £15. And the idea is the more that we do it in one lump, we get like a discount, and we'll keep that discount, but it's like £1.50 a shirt, you know. So out of 5 shirts, which is the first one, we get £7.50 back, which I don't think is too much hassle considering we buy them and we go through all the shit for them and all that. But they are £15, and if you want them posted, it's an extra £2. But if you're coming to play Blackpool, obviously I'll just hand it over. And we will sign them for free at Play Blackpool.
Why would you want to devalue them like that?
Devalue. We'll see.
Oh, Lord. Well, that's the plugs out the way, buddy.
That's the plugs out the way. So we've got this week Atari on. So I'll go through the normal history stuff.
And then along came Atari.
I mean, Atari was well, it started it all really. Before Atari, there were Sega had these. Well, not just Sega, but Sega had the ones that I've seen, which are like the mechanical video games. So like in Back to the Future Part 3, where he's using a gun to shoot things and they turn around and it's all that kind of keepy score thing.
Well, how far back do you want to go? I mean, there's William Higginbottom's like oscilloscope tennis game, for Christ's sake.
Exactly. But the first popularized video game, shall we say, was Computer Space.
It was, yeah.
It's the world's first arcade video game, which was made by Syzygy Engineering.
Nolan Bushnell
and Ted Dabney.
Right on.
And they built it for Nutting Associates.
Was do you know if Al Alcorn was on with Syzygy on the Computer Space? He wasn't.
No, it was he was brought into it as Atari's first design engineer when Atari was incorporated in 1972.
Ah, okay.
But those two guys, they were the guys behind Computer Space. They took that idea and they ran with it.
Have you ever seen the Computer Space cabinet?
Yeah, man.
Oh, so gorgeous. They've got one of you. If anyone's ever seen the film Soylent Green, there's one in there.
What's the best way to describe it? It's like a midnight blue, spacey with like.
It's like that weird fiberglass with
tube?
Like metal flecked kind of. They used to make motorcycle helmets out of them until they realised that when you kind of crash and get bits of fiberglass in your body, you die.
It's like a 60s tube TV with the CRT back quite a distance.
Yeah.
So you control a rocket ship using a thruster and a pair of rotational buttons. So you just turn it around and you go forward, and you evade enemy fire.
Well, the initial version of it, there was like so many different knobs, and like considering this is like no one had ever experienced anything like this before, this is why it didn't catch on. It was just far too complicated.
I've never played one, and I've never seen one, like in the flesh.
Yeah.
I've seen them in computer. But of course, it was bootlegged in 1972 by a game company called 4Play. As Star Trek.
Well, didn't Nolan Bushnell steal it from somebody else, because initially Computer Space could only be played on like PvP-10s at like universities, which cost like $20,000.
Yeah, it was also in Jaws as well.
Yeah.
Pictures that you see of it, they're often next to old school pinball tables, because it was the time of pinball, so that kind of mechanical thing comes back to me. Yeah, so yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
It's so they created that, and basically the first test that these guys gave Bushnell was make an arcade version of the Magnavox Odyssey's tennis game, which of course we all now know as Pong.
He totally ripped off Pong from
tennis.
What the hell was the guy's name? It always escapes me. Ralph Baer.
Yes.
The guy who invented the Magnavox Odyssey. Yeah, Bushnell got found out like years later, because he kind of, like when he brought it out, he claimed, I've never seen this thing before, it was totally original, and then they kind of found his name in the guest book where Baer had initially presented it like years before. So it's like, yeah, it proved that he kind of had been there and he had totally ripped off the idea, but he made it work.
Yeah, and so the interesting story there is, while Atari was done in 1972, Syzygy Engineering was never actually formed. So it was kind of a weird kind of setup. And basically, Bushnell wrote down loads of words, starting from the game Go, taken from the game Go, and eventually chose Atari, which in the context of the game Go means a stone or group of stones which is imminently in danger of being taken over by somebody's opponent.
Yeah, isn't it a Japanese word?
That's right. In Japanese, it's the nominalized form of Ataru, meaning to hit the target or to receive something lucky.
Yeah.
You wouldn't normally get it. So it's kind of like when somebody hits the lottery, if that makes sense. And it's kind of cool. So it was, anyway, June 27th, 1972, it was incorporated in the state of California.
Well, I mean, initially, wasn't, sorry to go back to this, but I mean, Ralph Baer did kind of ran off and sort of tried to sue over the fact that, like, Bushnell completely ripped off Pong. And I think it was basically like Atari bought the rights to video games from Ralph Baer for, like, I think it was like $100,000.
Yeah.
And then that was it. From then on, like, Atari shit gold.
Yeah, it's a funny one. And they always had people around them, like competitors and stuff. In fact, at one point, Nolan's next door neighbor started up Key Games.
Yes.
So he didn't have to go around, so he could go around the pinball distributions. Yeah, that was stuff. So it was kind of a weird thing at the time.
He was a shyster, man. Nolan Bushnell was a straight up carny. Well, that guy did
I call shenanigans.
And he loves sitting in the hot tub. But yeah, sorry, moving on.
Anyway, so from there, Atari was spawned basically, and you know what? Those original kind of games consoles, whatever, they were amazing.
The Stella.
Yeah. It's it took them a few years. So in 1972 they were formed, but it wasn't until 76 that they thought of the VCS, or later renamed the Atari 2600.
It was the first
video computer system, I should say.
That's right. It'd be the first video game system with actual ROMs programmed onto the cartridge. It had interchangeable cartridges, whereas before you would just kind of you would have like cartridges for a system like the Magnavox Odyssey, but essentially it wasn't really doing anything other than kind of flicking a switch.
That's right.
Inside the system.
So the way that I remember it is that the Magnavox Odyssey almost used these. How they used to write programs was that it was like a series of dots, like almost like Braille, and then the machine would read the Braille and interpret the code. So software emulation at a very early stage, which is how the Odyssey ran. But with the program was hard coded into the chip with the Atari, which was the first time, like you said, that it's ever done it.
Yeah.
It's kind of interesting.
Yeah, we kind of basically draw the screen and then put the screen up and then draw the screen and put the screen out. It's like there's actually like
it's ironic now that we've gone back to that, really, when you think about this with Sony doing their stuff with stream games and stuff. That's how it's going to be. You're going to have heavy software emulation. And again, with computing, we've gone back to that with cloud computing. Everything's up there now. It doesn't sit locally. Everything's on a server. It's kind of strange.
It's scary. It's Skynet all over again.
Skynet.
Skynet will become self-aware and we're doomed.
So Bushnell, he knew with the 2600, he was going to do okay. So he just sold out, basically. He sold it to a company called Warner Communications for $32 million. He said, "Right, fuck you, I'm off."
Well, I also mentioned that Ted Dabney dropped out just before Atari had kind of hit that.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah. So he lost
got
loads of money.
Yeah, got cold feet. Bushnell bought him out and became sole CEO of the entire company, and from then on it was just cha-ching, basically. It was good times as well up until the Warner buyout, and that's where.
I mean, they got rid of the pinball side of things, didn't they?
Well, you had two kind of. I guess they did, and then wouldn't Atari kind of split into two companies? You had Atari Games and then the Atari Corp.
Yeah, and eventually Bushnell got fired. And he said the quote that I've got here is, "We started fighting like cats and dogs, and then the wheels came off that fall. Warner claimed they fired me. I said I quit. It was a mutual separation." Now, the 2600, of course, coming out at this time, lots and lots of arcade ports. Not great arcade ports, let's be honest. But for the time, being able to play arcade quality games in your home, that was amazing. Pac-Man, Space Invaders, Defender, Centipede.
Well, I mean, this was still at a time when just being able to manipulate things on your TV was a novelty.
Exactly. Do you know what the funny thing about the 2600 is? It's still such a huge hit with fans today.
Oh, God, yeah.
Massively. The guy who wrote Halo originally, one of the lead developers on Halo, the original Halo, went back and wrote Halo for a 2600.
Yes. Oh, Christ. His name's on the tip of my tongue, but yeah, I know who you mean.
What a homebrew. Here's one of the most famous franchises in video game history. Do you know what? Fuck it. I'll take it back to Atari, to the 2600.
Yeah.
And if you look on eBay, that game's £80 to buy a cart for.
Oh yeah, there weren't too many produced, I shouldn't think.
Right. Yeah. So it's huge, and the things that he did with the code was fantastic.
Yeah.
Anyway, as soon as the 2600 was out, and this became, and it's still a theme today, the successor was being built on, literally as soon as it was shipped. And if you, I'm absolutely certain that PlayStation 5, the Xbox 2, and the Wii 3 are being developed right now. You know, I've no doubt about that. So the idea is that while all this stuff was going on with the 2600 and it was great and it was a console, the home computer revolution was taking off, so people were getting 286s and stuff like that at the time. So the machines were adapted. So they had a keyboard and various inputs, and they produced the Atari 800 and a smaller version, the 400. They were less attractive than the Apple II for some users, but they had success, and they did become available in huge amounts, you know. And that was in 1980. Then in 1982, the 5200 was released, which was based on the 408 models, 800 models, but without a keyboard, and it flopped. I mean, this thing stank. You know, the games were of absolutely terrible quality. The joysticks were the biggest hanging point of all for people. They were just awful, you know, and the paddles, I remember them being really, really cheap. When I've played them before, they're just no good. And what's worse is people, correct me if I'm wrong here, Tom, but you couldn't play 2600 games on a 5200, could you?
You needed the adapter.
Yeah.
It wasn't backwards compatible straight out of the box, which was a big problem back then because, I mean, this was the first, like, generational hardware shift. No one had ever attempted this before. And at the time, you know, you're trying to tell the average American consumer or whatever who's had the same record player and the same TV for the last 20, 25 years, like, what, I've just invested, like, so much into this system. Now you're telling me that I need to buy this next one? Like, what, you fucking crazy? Like, it was a hard sell for them. It was a real hard sell.
And, you know, and there was a crash. You know, in part due to the 5200 not being received well by users, in part due to Atari running 3 different divisions for video games, you know, home computer, console, arcade. They're not they run completely independent with different managing director or CEOs, if you will. Different.
Are you talking about the company or like the video games industry in general?
The company, Atari, had those 3 divisions running.
Was this before, around this time, is this like after the Warner buyout when Ray Kazar was in charge? So yeah, Ray Kazar was like, they'd gone from like, this company was like, it was run by Nolan Bushnell, but it was a bunch of like really creative, like, let's face it, kind of hippie pothead types who were like thinking up these like concepts and like basically
very
like,
creative guys.
Yeah, do you know what I mean? And like straight out of that, like all of a sudden the executives move in and everything becomes like really locked down, really corporate. And Ray Kazar was like, I think he was like a foreman at like a textile plant before he joined Atari, and his way of running things was like, you know, he was very...
Bottom line.
The guy was an asshole, basically. I mean, like, Atari were making money hand over fist, and apparently, like, the bonuses for the programmers that year was a ham. The Christmas bonus was a ham, you know, and the company was making millions and millions of dollars. And what happened was, like, the guys making the games weren't being credited.
So you're talking about the fastest growing company in the history of the United States, and you get a fucking ham.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Congratulations on your Pac-Man, Port.
Yeah.
Here's a ham.
They used to, they nicknamed him, I think they nicknamed him the Towel Czar or something like that. But yeah, basically what was going on, like, the programmers weren't being credited for their work. And there was,
that's
you know,
right,
a lot of...
Their credits weren't in a lot of the games, were they?
Yeah, that's right. And there is an Easter egg hidden in Adventure, I think. You can find the guy's initials. Yeah. That's the only time you can find it. But what had happened was, like, a lot of the big, like, key programmers there, like David Crane and stuff like that, they quit the fucking company. They'd had enough, and they formed, is it Activision? They formed Activision, and they were basically going up against Atari.
And they made games on the Atari, and Atari couldn't do anything about it.
Well, no, they took them to court for it, but it was, you know, like Activision, Crane, and everybody won. And all of a sudden,
the ruling was you can't tell somebody that they can't make a game for your system.
Oh yeah.
But there was a caveat that they had to license it, and a portion of profits went. But you can't tell someone what goes on your system. And this was around the time, I think, that basically Windows had opened up the market in the home computer market, because up until that point, if you wanted to program for an operating system, you couldn't do it. But Windows just said, oh, fuck it, anyone can do it with our system. So that set a precedent then for people like Activision to make video games for Atari systems.
The problem there being, though, was, I mean, although they won the battle, like, video games lost the war because the floodgates opened and everyone and their fucking mum could make as many shitty video games as they wanted. So we got games like Chase the Chuck Wagon, like, like Beat 'em and Eat 'em.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like...
Well, yeah, I mean, I experienced it myself for my Dragon 32, playing the King instead of Donkey Kong, you know? Which is fine, and it's all good and well and all the rest of it, but Jesus, you know. So 1983...
That was different, though. Like, the home computer market stayed healthy, but the console market in 1983 just bombed out. They were a toy.
It was called the video game crash of, wasn't it, 1983. $500 million was lost, basically.
Oh, man, Atari lost everything.
Warner's stock price, who owned Atari, slid from $60 to $20.
Yeah.
And they started to look for somebody to buy them. Kazaa resigned in 1983.
Well, I think did he resign or was he fired for profiteering?
No, he resigned.
I know that
he was forced to resign.
Yeah, he'd sold off a bunch of Atari stock. Like
they had it there. They had it, Tom, didn't they? They had the Famicom, and they were in negotiations with Nintendo for the Famicom.
Yes, this was when Jack Tramiel came over from Commodore and basically took over Atari. A lot of people like to say that, oh my god, Atari so fucking retarded for not buying Nintendo, blah blah blah. The plan was initially, I've heard somewhere, was to sit on that competition and neutralize it. So should they have bought it, Nintendo may not exist. But the other thing is like when a lot of people like to talk about Jack Tramiel as being this like asshole, like the worst person that could have like happened to Atari. Like his job was damage control. Like he came into the company and the company was fucked. They were hemorrhaging money, and his job was damage control, and that's what he did. Like, and you know, something like that, like buying like this Japanese company trying to pitch this home video game system at a time when video game consoles were dead.
Tom,
like,
I'm just gonna pop to the loo. You go it alone for a minute, buddy.
Right on. But yeah, it wasn't a smart move for them at all. So it didn't end up happening. The merger didn't end up happening, and that was pretty much it. Oh God, Chris, you've picked the worst time to go to the bathroom, man. But so they did have there was a lot of competition around this time as well. Like, as much as there was an influx of shitty games into the market, there was also an influx of really shitty video game consoles. So there were so many crappy systems around about this time. You can't even list it. You had like the Fairchild, Channel F, like there were so many other systems. Like the list is endless. But their first real competition in the home video game market would have been the Intellivision, which was launched in, I want to say, maybe 80... Chris, you there?
Yep.
When was the Intellivision launched, buddy?
Oh, that's a very good question. I want to say 1984.
Oh, I want to say 81.
Let's have a look. So, Intellivision... 1980 in North America, 1982 Europe and Japan.
Okay.
79 if you include the US test market.
Right on.
So you're presumably talking about the competitors here. So you had the Intellivision and you had ColecoVision, I want to say?
Yeah, ColecoVision, the leather company.
Yeah, but everyone wanted a piece of... I mean, that was released in 1982 as well, so that just gives you an idea of how big this... You know, people were springing up all over the fucking place with these things in 1982.
Yeah.
You know, huge thing. The Famicom released in 1983, so while we had a crash in the Western world, the Famicom fucking...
Oh, man.
Took its place in 1983. You know, and you had the Atari crash in the Western world, and Famicom had the boom in the East, you know. So
the boom in the East.
The boom in the East. So I mean, realistically, you can't blame these companies. You know, they were taken out. So you had all that going on. You had these competitors coming up, and basically everyone's flopped on their ass. You know, like you were saying. It's because what happens if the market leader, which was undoubtedly at the time Atari, The market leader goes down, the market goes down with them, you know?
Yeah.
Jack Tramiel purchased them, didn't he?
He did.
The Atari, as it was, and Warner sold the home computing and game consoles for $50 cash and $240 million in promissory notes and stocks, giving Warner a 20% stake in Atari Corp., who then used it to create a new company under the name Atari Corporation. Warner retained the arcade division, continuing under the name Atari Games, but sold it to Namco in 1985, and also sold the fledgling Atari Tel, i.e. Atari Television, to Mitsubishi.
So when did the home computer market die out for Atari?
1986.
Oh, shit.
Well, not really, actually. That's not true, because you had the ST after that. So we'll go into that now, actually. So basically, the way that I've seen the Tramiel's interviews are, oh, fuck, the Atari's failed, I've got to do this, what am I going to do? He brings out 16-bit computing's coming along, so he brings out the Atari ST. But while that's processing, they released the update to the 8-bit computer line, the Atari 65XE.
Right.
And then the Atari 130XE. And then they kind of had these like early test groups, I want to call them, like user groups, where they would talk to them about Atari, kind of like a fan club, if you will.
Uh-huh. And
he used to test the early 520STs on these in 1985. Think about how it was 88 when the Mega Drive came out. 3 years before that, they've got their hands on these 16-bit machines. That's crazy, isn't it?
Yeah.
And eventually in September of 1985, the 32-bit Atari STs were brought out.
Whoa.
Massively expensive.
Yeah, how much did that retail for when it was released?
Over here, I think it was in the region of £800, which is still cheap when you consider the PCs for £2,000.
I was about to say over there, like most PC adverts, like in the 80s, would just be like only 999999.
999. But he did that, and then he brought out two consoles. He brought out the Atari 2600 Junior, which had renewed vigor into the 2600, and the 7800.
Yes.
Which you could play 2600 games on, and he recognised the success of the 2600, and he said, "You know what, fuck it, this thing needs to play those games."
Well, what happened was the NES had blown up in the US, and Atari were like, "Oh shit, we've got all these 7800s in storage. Let's sell them for $50."
But in 1984, they did earn a $25 million profit.
Nice. Do you know what, the 7800 is a grossly underappreciated system?
Yeah, absolutely.
It's got Ninja Golf. I mean, Do I need to say anything else?
The remakes of games like the 7800 version of Space Invaders, Pac-Man, Donkey Kong, they're all fantastic.
Oh, yeah, sure.
They're really good ports. So, 1987, they acquired the Federated Group for $67.3 million. So basically, the Federated Group was like Walmart, really.
It was, yeah. It was their own chain of stores in like select places in America, and they sold NESs in there, which is just really bizarre to me.
Yeah, but you can guarantee what the salesman's line were on those.
Oh.
You know, let's be honest here. If you're to sell a product, like if I'm to sell something, then I'm going to talk about the pros versus the cons of the alternative.
Yeah.
And speaking of Nintendo, Atari, seeing the Game Boy's massive thing, said, "Do you know what? Fuck you. We're going to bring out a color handheld. We're going to bring out the Atari Lynx."
Wasn't that before Game Boy?
No.
I'm pretty sure it was.
No, 1989 was the Atari Lynx.
Wasn't it developed like in 1987 though by Epix, and they ended up just kind of sitting on it for a while? Yeah,
the problem was that the parts, mate, were very difficult to get hold of because it was brand new technology, you know, and that. But you know,
the thing was huge as well.
Yes, it was.
Initially, the initial designs were a lot smaller, but the problem is that video game companies still do this now. They used focus testing groups, and focus testing groups are fucking retarded. And like all these retard kids, all these other kids were just like, we want a bigger system. Like this sucks. Like we want a big system, like that we can't put in our pocket and weighs a ton that we could bludgeon someone to death with if they try and rob us.
And the other thing is, the Lynx, because it had that color thing, was more expensive, heavier, had less battery life because of the color display, and because of the parts, it was very difficult to get hold of one.
Oh yeah.
So, Game Boy won out. That plus Game Boy's epic partnering with Tetris was the reason why it just didn't win out. And there was a Lynx 2 where they sorted it out, but by that point it was all over.
Game over. Sorry, I watched the Street Fighter movie the other day.
So, Tramiel emphasized his computers over his games consoles in the end, the ST and stuff like that. But their sort of proprietary architecture lost out to the Windows Intel system, where you could add in extra memory or change your graphics card, or like we do nowadays. So that kind of building block machine kind of mentality.
So many fortunes made and lost at Atari.
Yeah, and they did sue Nintendo.
Yes,
in 1989 for $250 million.
Because they were Tengen, weren't they?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, no, they lost the case when it was rejected. In 1992. By that point, they were fucked anyway.
They did win something, didn't they, Tengen?
Tengen did, yeah. Not much, but like a much smaller case for like $1 million or something. Nintendo just laughed and said, "Fine, fuck it." Yeah. That's why I carry around in loose change, buddy.
Oh, for sure. But I mean, Nintendo, that was strong arm tactics from Nintendo back in the 80s, like trying to control.
They had lots of lawsuits, really. They had money in the bank, but in 93, they positioned Jaguar and they said, "This is the only 64-bit entertainment system available.
This is our last-ditch effort to claw something back."
Here's Alien vs. Predator. Oh, everything else you can get on other consoles.
Oh, man. 16 plus 16 plus 16 plus 16 equals 64.
Yeah. And it flopped. It absolutely flopped through the arse, They didn't do well. It wasn't pretty.
Really shitty architecture that nobody could program for.
Yeah, the programmers were scratching their heads. They found it really difficult. So they've eventually found themselves in 1996 with loads of money in the bank. But Lynx and Jaguar had flopped so bad they had erectile dysfunction and they didn't have anything to sell. So you're like, well, I've got loads of money, but I don't have anything to sell.
Oh no, we'll sell all these Jaguar
I
models.
go
to
R&D now. Yeah, exactly. I'm gonna be 4 years down the line.
Oh man,
before I can release anything else.
Such a sad death.
And in 1996, it merged with JTS Incorporated, who they made hard disk drives.
Ooh.
And all that happened was the Atari properties and support were passed over to them. So that was really the end of it. And then eventually, 1998 to 2000.
Was that the Infogrames period?
No.
Ooh.
No, this was just before. This was the Hasbro period.
Oh shit!
So they sold the name and all the assets to Hasbro for $5 million, which was less than a fifth of what Warner had paid 22 years earlier.
Oh god.
So it was primarily for the brand and the intellectual property.
Apparently they did an Apple, like, you know how Apple did with Steve Jobs, like when they got him back to save the company? Like, Atari tried to do the same thing with Nolan Bushnell. At some point, they got him in to, like, make some games for them. And it's like, Nolan Bushnell doesn't really make games. He's just like...
So nowadays, it's all software. And Infogrames, the bastard frogs, they took them over in 2001. And they were going to reinvent the Atari brand with the launch of 2 new games with proper Atari branding. Splashdown and MX Rider. We all remember those classics. No, we don't.
Oh yeah, are they responsible for like all the like PlayStation versions of like Frogger and Pong and everything?
Yeah, you know, and basically that's what Atari was living off of. That and its T-shirt sales.
Yeah, mugs.
Yeah. So eventually, on March the 6th, 2008, Infogrames made an offer to buy all of Atari Inc., all public share values for $1.68 a share, $1.68 a share, or $11 million total. Now remember, these shares were worth $80 at one point.
Oh man!
Sorry, $60 at one point, and they're now worth $1.68.
Yeah.
Even I could afford a share in Atari at this point.
Yeah.
And it made Infogrames the sole owner, thus making it a privately held company. And they did it basically. Infogrames bought it, and from there it's become a pretty much a software house. They bought Cryptic, who are an MMO developer.
Oh shit!
In 2008, so Sea of Heroes, Sea of Villains, Champions Online, Star Trek Online, and Neverwinter, which is the new one, which is actually very good.
Oh, cool. Weren't the the 360 PC Test Drive Unlimited games published? Were they published by Atari?
Unreal Tournament.
Yeah.
And various other games.
You will still see their name around on certain things.
Sure. Thankfully, Namco Bandai purchased a 34% stake in Atari Europe in 2009. Atari had loads of problems, loads of money leaking out everywhere, and eventually changed over again. And the co-founder, Nolan Bushnell, in April 2010, joined the board. And 11 months later was gone. And that was it.
So fuck this, I'm out, back to the hot tub. I've got part to smoke.
January 2013, filed for relief under Chapter 11 of the Bankruptcy Code in the United States. Sad day. All three Ataris emerged from bankruptcy 1 year later and announced plans for a mobile-based roller coaster tycoon 4, and the entering of the social gaming casino industry with Atari Casino. Some guy called Fred Chesney, who now heads all three companies, stated their entire operations consist of a staff of 10 people.
Dude, I didn't think this would be this depressing, but my God.
That is that is the life and times of Atari, and we've spent nearly the whole bloody episode just going through that sad state of history.
Yeah, sorry if I've been waffling over you, but this is a big subject for me.
Yeah, it is, and to be fair, we've only done the history here, so we'll revisit this and talk about what's good about Atari in the future.
Oh man, this is like 5% of it. There is a really good book actually, but I can't remember the name of it. It's like fucking 800 pages long, which sounds like a little unwieldy, but once you start reading it, oh man, it's just fascinating. Like, you would not believe the shit that happened at that company. Especially during the good times as well, man. That place was like fucking 24-hour party house.
People
like,
strip it, but Gauntlet,
man.
Flax, Ms. Pac-Man, Afterburner, these are all the 10-gem ones. Fantasy Zone, Pac-Man, Pac-Mania, Paperboy.
E.T. I actually like E.T.
Shinobi. Tubin. Tubin's amazing game on the NES. Yeah, just huge developer. Do so well. So well.
For sure.
It's
have you still got anything Atari related, hardware wise?
Yeah, I got a Woody.
Nice. You got a Woody.
Yeah.
For the benefit of anyone who doesn't know what that is a console, not an erection.
It's a wood fronted 2600.
Nice. I've got the Black Vader and the Rainbow Junior.
Oh, nice. Very cool. And I've actually got an ST520E in box.
Oh shit.
Yeah. Which
man.
I've never used.
I might. You keep it as trade bait.
No, I've someone said someone gave me a graphics card to upgrade my computer, and their mother-in-law lives in Bristol, so whenever he comes next, he's just taking it.
Right on.
As my wife would say, oh great, another box of useless shit.
Yay!
So, yeah, it's Atari is a sad story. It is.
It is, but it's very important.
It is important. Yeah, it's
We could do like 10 episodes on this.
Yeah. That's like a brief history, an hour's worth of Atari, if you will.
Maybe not chronologically correct either, but fuck it, we'll run with it. It's not like anybody's listening anyway.
Hey man, listen, I've seen the stats. We're doing well.
Are we doing okay?
Yeah, we're doing well, man. Trust me. Plus, when I can actually be bothered to download and re-upload to YouTube those views.
Yeah.
It does all right. It does okay. And if anybody is listening and they have a subject that they want us to talk about, do get in touch on Facebook on the Retro Renaissance podcast. Or if you want to be on the show, if you want to talk about something, let us know as well. It's a shame that the little Retro Brothers weren't here today, but we will get them on because that's a really interesting take how a 6-year-old views Atari, because Hayden from the little Retro Brothers is an absolute Atari nut. He loves them to bits.
Those kids are cool.
And they are very cool. I was streaming Hearthstone live the other week, and Zoe was sitting on my lap while we were doing it on Twitch, and they were watching.
Yeah.
And Noah was shouting at the TV we were saying, "Hi Noah," the younger of the two.
Yeah.
And so he was going, "Hi Noah," and Noah was shouting at his TV asking why we couldn't hear him. Yeah, very, very cool kids. Very cool kids.
Adorable.
But do you know what the key thing for Atari is? That it really opened up our eyes to gameplay. You know, those single screen things that they had. And I was watching somebody do Beam Rider earlier. Is it Beam Rider?
Beam Rider?
It's an Activision game, ironically enough.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is. It's Beam Rider.
Mhm.
Basically, there's 5 beams of light, and stuff flies across. Not necessarily on those beams, but it shoots down on those beams.
Yeah.
And that was on. I think it was in television, maybe actually.
Yeah.
Of that era, anyway. And it's just such a great game, you know.
Yeah, man.
A good game. Actually, was it? No, yeah, it was on the Atari 2600 as well, Beam Rider. So yeah, it's well worth doing. And if we have a look now on eBay, Beam Rider, let's have a look. Beam Rider 2600. Yeah, it's a £20 game, $20 game. Sorry.
Right on.
So it's kind of a cool one, and it's kind of cool because it has 2 different labels as well. So you have like this weird psychedelic version, and the plain white label with text on it.
Okay.
You know the ones I mean? So,
Yeah.
But yeah, I saw Lactobacillus primer, but I think he did it for in television, and then Ninja Bear Hug did a 2600 version. But it's 10. There's one on eBay right now for £10.
Nice.
So that's my game at the minute for the 2600, I would say.
So what? Yeah, I was about to ask quickly. What is your, if you want to rattle off a couple or just one favorite 2600?
Oh, Adventure.
Oh man.
Hero.
Amazing. Yes. Kaboom.
Yeah, just those. You know, they're just great.
Missile Command.
Yeah, Missile Command was cool because you had that weird pad for it as well, didn't you?
Demon Attack. There was another one I'm trying to think of. In space, obviously, as every Atari cartridge is in space, and it has to have a rainbow as well. You would like this weird kind of bug spaceship.
Xenophobe.
No, not Xenophobe. Oh, it's literally on the tip of my tongue. Like, people are going to scream it at me. There was like this. You were shooting this thing in space, and there was like this little dot trying to that would kind of come after you, and you had to get in the safe zone and try and avoid being hit by this dot while you were shooting this spaceship.
Oh my mate.
God,
no, it's not. I'm just looking through some games now.
It's not Demon Attack. It's,
Super Cobra.
No, it's
Just reading it out now. Ikari Warriors was one of my favourite, by the way.
Yeah.
It had good games as well, like Cuba was a decent version.
I was about to say, it had good joysticks as well, man. You could abuse those things.
Of course, the first ever viewing of the Mario Brothers.
Yes.
On a home console, which is something we missed out completely there.
Mario Brothers on Atari. Then there's all the porn games as well.
Spider Fighter, Street Racer, come on.
Yeah.
The Adventures of Tron.
Was Death Race ever on Atari 2600?
I think it may have been. But there were other stuff, you know. And you can get these clone consoles now, which I recommend people pick up because they're just fun. Or just, you can actually play legally Atari games on, there's a BBC site you can do, which if anybody's interested, give us a shout and we'll put it up. Centipede.
Yeah.
Pitfall.
Oh man. Pitfall, best game ever.
Hangman, Asteroids.
10 seconds, Chris.
Right. Thank you very much. I've been Chris Shankt and
I've been Brahill. Visit the Facebooks.
Retro Renaissance Podcast on Facebook and Retro on them. Thank you.
Good night.